Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you. To the future home of the Toronto Metropolitan University's School of Medicine. Can we? My name is Roberta Iannacito Provenzano, and I'm the Provost and Vice President Academic at TMU. I'm very excited to welcome you to the School of Medicine's first in-person fireside chat. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the history of the land we are on. Brampton and its surrounding area, the Peel region, are part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We acknowledge that these lands are also the shared space of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, Chippewa, and Métis peoples. We honor the Indigenous peoples who cared for this land for thousands of years before us and commit to valuing the two-row wampum. This living treaty represents settlers and Indigenous peoples moving forward together in parallel, respecting each other's ways of being, knowing, and doing. We honor the dish with one spoon treaty. And in this spirit, we strive to treat the land and people of our community with mutual respect, taking only what we need and sharing what is available to ensure sustainability for those that follow us. Thank you all for being here, including our special guests and dignitaries, as well as many of our partners and community organizations that we collaborate with from across Brampton and surrounding areas. We greatly appreciate your support and engagement as we continue our work towards opening the School of Medicine in fall of 2025. Tonight's conversation will be the first of many, facilitated by the School of Medicine, inviting experts in healthcare and community services to engage in discussion around transforming medical education and fostering greater health equity in Brampton and surrounding areas. TMU's approach to medical education will draw on the university's commitment to community diversity and inclusion and innovation to address the changing needs for healthcare delivery and practice in Ontario and in Canada. This event also falls in the first week of Black History Month, and as part of our recognition of the month, we want to ensure that we address the topic of health equity as part of our conversation tonight. As a university, we strive for equity in all that we do, and the School of Medicine is committed to truth, reconciliation, anti-racism, and justice to achieve inclusion and optimal health for all. Of course, this work would not be possible without our dedicated faculty and staff at the School of Medicine, our clinical and community partners and affiliates, the City of Brampton and Peel region, and members of the community who have engaged with us to help shape our medical school. For those interested in staying updated on School of Medicine news or looking for future engagement opportunities, you can find more information on the handout that's included in the tote bag that you received. Please scan the QR code on the page to be directed to the School of Medicine website, where you can sign up for our mailing list so you never miss an opportunity to get involved. I know that we're all eager to get tonight's fireside chat, also a fire chat probably, underway. But before we do, I would like to introduce a few representatives here tonight and invite them to say a few words. The first guest I'd like to welcome is someone I have the immense pleasure of working closely with every day, Dr. Mohamed Lashimi, President and Vice Chancellor of TMU, an internationally recognized researcher and accomplished academic administrator. Mohamed has been a key contributor to the growth and development of TMU over a transformational time in the university's history. As president, he has promoted the establishment of TMU as a global university, overseen the development of the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst, a national center for cybersecurity, and navigated approvals for new and innovative law and medical schools. Please join me in welcoming President Lashimi to the stage.
Thank you very much, Roberta. Good evening, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here and also very delighted to welcome you to the Fireside Chat event at the Toronto Metropolitan School of Medicine here in the city of Brampton. And it's also wonderful to have you here at the former Panelist Civic Center and what will be soon a center hub for medical education, not only for Brampton, but for the entire region. A lot of things will be happening here, and we want this to be done by the community, for the community. I would like to take a moment to recognize the many government representatives in attendance this evening. I can tell you this journey has been extremely successful because of local champions. We could not do this by ourselves, and we have many of them here at both the municipal and the provincial level who are true champions for Brampton, for the region, for this province. And I want to recognize their leadership, and I want to also personally to thank them for their help and support from day one. Those are the real allies to this medical school. And I can tell you that your presence underscores the collective commitment to advancing healthcare and education in our communities. So thank you so much for your support, continued support. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being here with us tonight. As we convene during the start of the Black History Month, let's recognize and celebrate the invaluable contributions of Black individuals to healthcare and society and education, because the way that we are approaching this is through education. And I'll tell you, when I grew up in a very small town in Africa, I had two role models. And I will want to use a quote from one of them. And both actually talking about the importance of education and how education can open doors, transform lives, and give opportunities for everyone to be successful. Nelson Mandela and Malcolm X. Nelson Mandela, one of his quotes is saying that education is the most powerful weapon to transform lives and change status quo. He was not talking about weapon of mass destructions. He was talking about the importance of education. Malcolm X in the US said education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs those who prepare for it today. And we are today here to talk about tomorrow in Brampton and in the entire region. So our event tonight not only honors this legacy, but also reaffirms our commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization in every aspect of the work that we do here and beyond. TMU's School of Medicine is being designed to define medical education and transform the way that we provide services in healthcare. Our vision is to create a community-driven and intentionally inclusive school where cultural awareness and humility are as integral as medical expertise. These principles are embedded across all facets of our School of Medicine, something we will learn more about through this discussion tonight with our panelists. Before we begin tonight's discussion, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished panelists. Your insights and contributions are integral to navigating the complexities of healthcare, diversity, and inclusion. As we come together this evening, I'm reminded of the power of community, collaboration, and shared vision. This medical school in Brampton is a shared vision between all of us. The discussions we will have tonight are just the beginning of ongoing dialogue that will shape the future of healthcare and medical education in our entire region. Thank you once again for everyone in attendance for your support, engagement, and commitment to advancing a more inclusive, equitable, and diverse healthcare landscape. Let's continue to work together towards a future where healthcare experience and equity are inseparable. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Lashami. Next, I have the great pleasure of introducing the Deputy Mayor of the City of Brampton, Harkirat Singh, to the stage.
Thank you, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I want to start by starting off where Dr. Lashami left off about collaboration. I remember when Dr. Lashami came with a vision that we're going to bring a medical school here to Brampton, and I couldn't even believe that somebody wanted to bring a medical school here in Brampton, and especially because it was after 150 years we were talking about a medical school. And Brampton, we had been hearing for years and years, we need a university, we need a campus, and now we were going to do one of the most difficult things in trying to bring a medical school here to Brampton. And, but we worked with our provincial partners, so shout out to MPP McGregor and Minister Williams, and the municipality. Shout out to Councillor Santos is here, Councillor Brar, Councillor Vicente, and Councillor Tour. We rolled up our sleeves and we made it happen because we broke down silos, we had collaboration, we had a great captain. So please give him a round of applause, Dr. Lashami. And the whole TMU staff has been remarkable. We are thrilled how they've embedded themselves into the community. Myself and Councillor Tour had the opportunity to tour together in Wards 9 and 10 and visit specific sites. And that deep and meaningful collaboration is what's going to set us up for success. And I also want to acknowledge the work with TMU, with the City of Brampton and the MedTech Task Force. And so we've brought together over 30 stakeholders on one platform to talk about how we can look at the economic opportunities of the future for the city of Brampton. And we have all the top developers. We have MedTech Canada on there. We have the 5 top MedTech companies in Brampton, including Taro Pharmaceutical and Boston Scientific. I had the opportunity to go to Anaheim, and Brampton had a huge presence in Anaheim for the MedTech conference, and we have the MedTech conference coming here in Brampton as well. So we're working together to change the lives of Canadians, to change the lives of Bramptonians, and it's a remarkable success story. So we look forward to continue to work together to improve the lives of Canadians. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Singh. It is now my pleasure to introduce the MPP for Brampton North, Graham McGregor, and the Associate Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity for Ontario, Charmaine Williams. Welcome to the stage.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. This is so exciting whenever we get to talk about a med school, right, in Brampton. And I remember when Mohammed came to council and pitched the med school to us, and I thought, wow, you know what? This guy's going to do it. You know why? Because you successfully did it with the Lincoln Alexander Law School. And that was the benchmark. That was the indication that something great is going to happen here in this school, in this city. And, it's not lost on me that it is Black History Month. And, this is significant to the community, especially, when I see Angela here from Roots, and our government has given $25 million to develop the Black Health Hub. And my goal is to see it very close to the school. Because how do you decolonize a very Eurocentric health system? You make sure your doctors are trained in diverse communities, intentionally inclusive communities. You ensure that the doctors who are training the doctors of the future reflect the communities that they're serving. That's how you do it. And that's what's going to happen here. And so I'm thrilled about the future of Brampton, because Brampton is such an amazing community to learn from. And I'm thrilled that this is the future of medicine. So what a vision that's been coming to fruition. And so I'm excited about this, and I will turn it over to MPP Graham McGregor.
Good.
Well, hello, good evening, everybody. Man, how exciting is it to be here speaking at the site of the future Brampton Medical School. There's a lot of people, when we were fighting for this project over the years, a lot of people that thought we were crazy, right? They're like, okay, there's never been a medical school in the GTA in 150 years. Brampton, Brampton historically, let's be frank, it's not always a place where we get a lot of love from different levels of government. In many ways, our growing population, we haven't had these kind of big, massive, major city building items to follow suit. And to be standing here now, we're in February 2024, and knowing that we're opening up in the fall of 2025, the Brampton Medical School, just everybody from TMU, the whole team that's put it together, please give them a massive round of applause. I don't want to get emotional. I said I wouldn't cry, but it's a dream come true, and I know Minister Williams, not only her advocacy at the province, but her work on city council as well, is a massive reason why this has happened. Obviously, our city council counterparts, Councillor Tour, Deputy Mayor Singh, Councillor Vicente, Councillor Brar, Councillor Santos, as well as the other councillors that couldn't be here. Everybody has worked together and collaborated to make this medical school a reality. And we're finally in a place where we can say next year, Brampton students will be able to become Brampton medical students, eventually become Brampton doctors serving Brampton residents. And damn, it feels good to say that today. We're a city with a lot of challenges. We know that. We have a very young population, but we also have a lot of our older population. We have a very diverse population, and I know the team at TMU, and I look forward to hearing from our panelists here today. We'll be talking about how they plan to overcome those challenges. And from our side, from the MPPs, the provincial government, our commitment to this project. We're here with you every step of the way. The last thing I do want to just say, I know we've been applauding him a lot today, but Mr. Lashmi is also now an Order of Ontario recipient. And I know we applauded him a lot today, but that needed to be said and acknowledged. So thank you, everybody, for allowing us to share the space tonight. Looking forward to a great discussion. Thanks.
Thank you both for joining us. So, it's now time to meet tonight's panelists who will lead us through our conversation. Our first panelist is Angela Carter. Angela is a dedicated advocate for positive change and empowerment, primarily for those from Black, African, and Caribbean backgrounds. In her current role as Advisor Strategic Initiatives, Angela leads the development of the Integrated Black Health and Social Services Hub at Roots Community Services, where she continues her work to dismantle racism and barriers, advocating for equity and equality. Our second panelist, of course, I was going to clap for all of them. Thank you. We'll change it up a bit. Thank you. Our second panelist is Dr. Ripudaman Singh Minhas, who is a developmental pediatrician at St. Mike's Hospital. As a distinguished South Asian doctor, he's a passionate advocate for addressing the unique healthcare needs of the Punjabi community. Often providing healthcare insights on social media. I hear you're the TikTok doctor. In multiple languages, after my heart, as a linguist, he shares evidence-based health information that is translated and adapted to help parents and guardians make the right decisions for the health of their families. So following MPP McGregor's suggestion, you can all come to the stage. Okay. Our final panelist this evening is also someone with whom I have the pleasure of working every day, our Dean and Vice President of Medical Affairs for our School of Medicine, Dr. Teresa Chan. She is our founding dean. An educational leader and scientist, Dr. Chan has advanced the field of medical education by bringing in innovative new approaches and strives to inspire future physicians to advance social justice. Welcome to the stage, Teresa. Hey. Good. All right. So, all right. I think our mics are good. Yeah? Perfect. I think so, yeah.
Testing.
So we're going to kickstart the conversation this evening. I'll kickstart it by with the first round of questions, which relate to cultural competence in healthcare. And the first question of the night, ready? is for Dr. Minhas. We know that Brampton is one of Canada's most culturally diverse and fast-growing cities. So my question to you is, and I can repeat it if you like, you have worked extensively with the South Asian community. How have you observed the cultural competence of medical professionals impacting patient care, especially within the diverse communities of Brampton? And then, what are any gaps that you might be seeing?
Thanks for that question. Yeah, Brampton is so beautifully rich in its diversity. I'll just pop in there that I grew up here, a longtime Brampton resident. I spent a lot of time in this building when it was a library, studying here for exams. So it's interesting to be back here. I think, when I think back to my own training, social determinants of health and inequity were something that we were taught. It seemed theoretical. It wasn't something that we got to see day to day in our training. And I think that's an important gap that we have the opportunity to address through this medical school, is to build in those opportunities to work with communities that are experiencing inequity, that have experienced historical marginalization as well, to understand what are their ways of participating in the healthcare system. I think, Brampton in particular is a particularly poignant place. That's a lot of P's. It's a particularly poignant place to have a new school of medicine. When we think about the disproportionate toll that COVID's taken here, both in infectious and also non-infectious repercussions. And so by that, I'm thinking about all of the times we were hearing in the media and through politicians as well about how we were hearing about COVID hotspots being here. And there was a lot of racial gaslighting happening as a part of that as well. And I think it really caused us to pause as a medical community to think about, how can we do better? What are the underlying sort of processes about why we're expecting diverse communities to conform to how we think healthcare should be delivered? So I think, there's a lot of really exciting opportunities here to rebuild. Dr. Lashmi was talking about decolonizing, and I think that's a really important process here, and I think that'll come through really meaningful community engagement and conversations like this.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. I particularly, the piece about the theoretical versus the actual training resonates with me, especially as we want to launch our integrated health centers in the new School of Medicine. So, but I don't want to spoil it for what might come in the conversation later this evening. So thank you. My next question is for Angela. So your work with Roots Community Services has been pivotal in empowering Black, African, and Caribbean communities. What would you say are the top 3 challenges? So top 3 challenges that you have encountered in breaking down systemic barriers to access healthcare in these communities?
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thank you for that question. There are many to choose from, but my top 3, first is systemic inequities and disparities in the system, and it's in all institutions in Canada, not just healthcare. And these inequities and disparities are so ingrained that they're easily overlooked. People don't see them. And when we speak about them, we are seen as troublemakers and, and told to conform to the norm, right? Because it seems that we just don't want to be with the others. So it is so ingrained, and those are things we find. System change is important. We need to change the system, go back to where systems were developed, how they were developed, and why they were developed the way they were. So we can look at making those changes that would be inclusive and not exclusive. There are real barriers. Another challenge we have is that deep-seated fear and mistrust of our communities, the Black, African, Caribbean communities, and I'm sure other racialized I know, in the healthcare system. Again, going back to that system. And, and so that hinders people from really seeking help until it becomes a crisis. And then that's when they go to the clinics or, to ER and stuff. But then it's too late in some cases. The problem is that many of us don't have family doctors as well. Mm-hmm. And then some of those who even do have family doctors don't get to see the family doctors because the hours they work are not conducive to the hours the community works. So, all of those challenges. So there's that mistrust that the doctors don't want, or the system that are set up against them really getting health care. And then when they get there, sometimes they're told, oh, you only can present with one issue. My back is hurting and also my leg, and I wanted to tell you about my back, right? And that's not how we do it. We go to our doctors, and this is in the Caribbean, we're going to tell them everything that happened since the last visit, right? Yeah. So we need to talk, right? Yeah. We need to tell you, because you have to treat the whole person. You can't just treat a symptom, because that back pain may be connected to the leg as well. So you're going to treat this. And then everything is medication. And then we have this thing that the doctors, medical professionals are authority figures. So yes, we would take the medication and then take it from them, fill a prescription, but then we don't use it because it makes us feel sick. Because we have that mistrust again. And the third one is not being recognized as a people of worth, right? And that contributes so much to the anxiety and the fear and everything that goes on within us that cause us to have these, they manifest themselves in physical and mental health problems, right? Because we are seen as a group that does not add value to society, right? Racism, and Dr. Minas talked about the social determinants of health. Yeah, we know racism is one of the factors in the social determinants of health, along with other things. So when you have racism and when we have the low wages, we have higher unemployment, we have insufficient food, we are unable to pay our rent, can't get decent living, limited upward mobility in our workplaces. All of these things add to it. But all of these things are driven a lot by how people see us. This, how racism plays out, again, systemic. And yeah, when we are feeling that way, we can't be our best selves. And I'm not sure if many people saw an article, and I have to quote it. It was an article in the Toronto Star yesterday that mentioned an article regarding comments from a counselor in Pickering. And I'm quoting, this counselor denounced government programs for Black communities, said people were hung up on the transatlantic slave trade, called the idea of white privilege racist, and called herself a modern-day slave. When we hear that, and we hear people talking like that in a, elected official, and this is not a one-time thing, we know it's said, those things affect us mentally, affect us, and that's why we have such hypertension. Why we have such high levels of strokes because these things affect us, right? Mm-hmm. So these just not being recognized as a group of people that have contributed to the development of this country and that have worth is a major concern and a big challenge for us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Angela. So you used a word that's interesting, fighting the system, right? These systemic challenges. You use the word troublemaker. We're seen as troublemakers, right? I would say disruptors, like TMU, challenging the status quo. That's what we need to do.
Yes.
If you want to call it troublemakers, that's fine with me. But I mean, that's what we need to do if you want the system to change, right? And I think that's what TMU, with respect to the university in general and the School of Medicine, that's what we're trying to do. Creating a different kind of medical school that disrupts and challenges the status quo, where the medical students that are to be accepted aren't necessarily, the kids, and I say kids because I'm like 52, the kids of people, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents that were doctors, right? It's training a different kind of doctor, one that's rooted in better outcomes for patients, rooted in EDIA, in decolonization, et cetera. So thank you for raising those points, and I'm sorry that those comments were made. I can, it's terrible when we hear things like that. So I see you. So our final question on this topic is for Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen, you have spearheaded numerous innovative approaches in medical education. What are some of the key advancements you foresee in medical education that align with creating a more inclusive and diverse learning environment?
So, having been a doctor's kid, I know that I have a lot of work to fix the system with my privilege. I was really lucky to have my first pediatrician was a immigrant from Jamaica, and it was a privilege to have him as like one of the first doctors that I identified as my doctor. And so I want to give that ability for so many others. And we have so many great people here who have done great work. And I think it's about living to that privilege that I know I own. I've talked about it before, but I want to disrupt the system now on the other side of it. And one of the biggest advancements that there is out there is this concept of competency-based medical education, right? And if it's fully realized, competency-based medical education, or CBME for short, really is about customizing learning to help each individual learner, whether they're a student or a resident, actually kind of design their own journey, right? So the idea would be that they might be really good at one part of care, but maybe there's another part where they're needing a little bit of extra help. Maybe they can't remember all the milestones for, pediatrics, because those are hard to remember. And maybe they need to spend a little bit more time there. Well, then they should spend their time there if they're really good at suturing, for instance, right? And so as we can customize things for people, our learners, we can attend to what they need, play to their strengths, but then also help them fix the things that they need help with, because we'll have been looking. I think that to fully realize that, we also have to bake in all the supports, right? And so the school needs to go beyond just having them count all their assessments, but rather to take those and analytics and actually help them perform to the fastest that they can, and also in the best way they can. Another thing that we're trying to do is also make sure that we hire great clinical faculty that will actually represent the diversity of the school that we want to admit. I think that if the faculty don't look like the students, then that jarring difference can be really a story in itself without even saying a word, right? I mean, I think you experienced it, I've experienced it, but in something like, I looked at all the profs that I had in medical school, there were very few that looked like me, right? And so I think it's important for us to make sure that we attend to the full stack. It's not just the students, the residents, it's also about recruiting the faculty and making sure that we have great people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. And I know that the entire team at our medical school has been doing that recruitment in a thoughtful way. And one of the things we've really been committed to is having our Indigenous health lead, our Black health lead. When we hire our disability health lead, we have our associate dean of ADIA and social accountability with us tonight too. We've made sure that those folks are at the table to guide the curriculum, not calling them after the curriculum's been created. So it's really a co-creation along with community. That's important. So kudos to the entire team. Thank you, Teresa. So thank you so much, all three of you, for your insight into this important topic of cultural competence in healthcare. So it's really important that we continue to have these conversations in order to train our future-ready physicians that are culturally respectful and can address the needs of the diverse communities that they serve. Speaking of addressing societal needs, we're seeing the residents in communities across Ontario and Canada experiencing significant challenges, like Angela mentioned, with access to appropriate high-quality primary care, and this includes Brampton and Peel Region. Furthermore, underserved communities face their own unique challenges in accessing high-quality healthcare. So, Dr. Minas, in your view, what are the primary challenges that these communities face with regard to healthcare equity, and what initiatives or strategies are being implemented in the work that you do?
I think when we're thinking about systems levels issues like this, it's important to think about, who created the current system. So when we're thinking about our current healthcare system, who created that? What are the kind of the remnants of that, or the structures that we're all still participating in, and many of us disproportionately benefit from, while others are disadvantaged by. And then with that, who was that system built to serve? And I could go on for a while about that. But I think in particular, to summarize, a lot of the initial systems in our healthcare system were built, like Angela was saying, for people who can, get there during business hours, who have, the ability to leave work, who have other people who can maybe care for their family or their children, et cetera. And originally, really much based in Eurocentric forms of what health and wellness is. And again, in a Eurocentric, Anglocentric, resource-abundant sort of way, right? And so that in itself leaves entire communities behind. And we've seen that here. And so I think it's really important to pause to think about, what are some of those challenges? I think some of the things that I've seen work well is, so one thing we've been talking about a bit so far is representation. So there's a lot of studies that show that when members of marginalized communities receive healthcare and healthcare advice from people who look like them, who have a similar name, a similar language, grew up in a similar neighborhood, there's greater trust. There's a greater likelihood of taking in that health information and that advice and improving your own health, but the entire health of your family and your community as well. And so I think representation can't be underestimated. And I think some of those legacies of our healthcare system, when we think about groups that we're kind of lumping together as marginalized communities, each have their own unique histories of how they've been left behind or how they've been othered, including exploitation, enslavement, colonization, genocide, medical experimentation as well, when we think about healthcare in particular. And so I think those need to be recognized. And I think, a lot of institutions are now trying to dismantle and rebuild. I think this is an exciting opportunity here to build from scratch. So I'm really excited to hear about all of the conversations that are happening here. The other thing I'm thinking about also is communities, and this is a common theme tonight. I think communities need to be respected as equal partners in this process. And so a lot of my work has been in community-based participatory research methods. So the idea there is understanding that communities themselves are unique entities that have their strengths and priorities that need to be respected. And when we're creating interventions, when we're creating research ideas, when we're creating institutions like this, that they need to be respected as equal partners at that table.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm hearing a few themes. One is co-creation, for sure. Community, systemic challenges, and using these kinds of strategies, co-creation, involving the community, but also representation, also removing barriers for access as ways to fight this inequity. So thank you so much for that. As I mentioned during my introduction, we have some of our community partners in attendance tonight, and we're fortunate to have Angela on our panel this evening to share her expertise in the ways in which local organizations contribute to the communities that they're in and that they serve. So Angela, in your experience, how have partnerships between healthcare providers and community organizations contributed to improved health outcomes, and how can healthcare organizations collaborate with communities to build more and effective sustainable healthcare solutions?
Well, it is imperative for healthcare providers to understand the communities and the patient clients that they're serving, as you just alluded to as well. And so we really believe in partnerships and in collaboration. We have in our organization, Roots Community Services, we have a number of partners that work with us because we know we cannot do it alone. But the COVID-19 pandemic really opened up the doors to more effective and sustainable collaboration between healthcare providers and the healthcare system in general and community agencies. And, we did have to fight sometimes and to get our message and over because we had to say, we know the community, right? We deal with the community on a day-to-day basis. And I just give you an example too of when we were doing the vaccine clinics for the COVID, and the ministry and Ontario Health wanted to just do it in the specific way. They want to come in, just have it there and back out. And we said, it's not going to work. You're setting yourself up for failure. You need to get community input. You need to have us there to help you and help the community because there's mistrust already. Just because you put it there, they're not going to come, right? Let us work. Let us make that connection. Let us talk to them. So we had town hall meetings with our community members. We had small group meetings. Before the vaccine, we restructured our support line to be able to be a registration line for the vaccines. We actually had the major clinic here in this building, and we had music. And we were able to tell our community, when you come, we had Black doctors and nurses that were here. If you come and you feel you sit in that chair and you don't want to take that vaccine even after all of that, you can leave. No one is going to judge you, right? We are here for you to community. And I must admit, the Ontario Health and the public health units, they listen to us, right? And since then, actually, we have a partnership with Peel Regional Police. Not Peel Regional Police. We do have a partnership with them. I didn't mean that. But Regional Peel Public Health, and other community agencies. And we have formed the Black, African and Caribbean Community Health and Wellness Collaborative. And we have community fairs that are held often in the community to really get the community to come out and give in input. It is so important that we have that. We go into barbershops. We talk to people in beauty salons. It is so important that we go deep into community, grocery stores. So we know when we go in there, hey man, how are you doing? Yeah. They are willing to talk to us and they're willing to listen to us. If we go now with messages to them, they're not going to say, have that barrier. They're going to say, oh, really? Very much open. And I must, as I said, give kudos to the Region Appeal for continuing that conversation, continuing that dialogue with the community, and continue to work with us. So, but it's still a long way, because one of the big things we've had to fight against was like sickle cell. A person with sickle cell, they go to the hospital in excruciating pain. And it's known that if they get attention very early, they can reduce that pain and be better. If not, it's going to be days and days in the hospital. They've been left alone. And one of the comments you would hear is that, oh, they just want drugs. They don't really think, they just want drugs. Overcoming things like that. But learning and collaborating is going to help for the healthcare system, the healthcare practitioners, to understand why it's necessary to understand the communities in which you work. You must do that.
Absolutely. So the engagement with community, the collaboration with community agencies and having partnerships is particularly important also for representation, right? So with that insight, so thank you, I'd like to give Dr. Chen an opportunity to speak on the School of Medicine's plans to engage the community. So my question to you, Teresa, is as the founding dean, how do you envision integrating TMU's School of Medicine within the Brampton community? And how will active involvement with the community contribute to defining the character and influence of the new medical school?
Well, the city has been so welcoming, right, to the School of Medicine. So we need to welcome the community right back. And I think one of the things that first and foremost is We're going to have residents, physicians, like, so you watched Grey's Anatomy or Scrubs. That's like that kind of junior doctor, right? Like some people don't know what a resident is, but now with like The Good Doctor and all these shows about residents, I think we get it.
A lot
Yeah.
in this process.
Yeah.
I tell you, as a hygienist, she's taught me a lot.
And so we'll have trainees in our hospitals, in our clinics, right? And all of you, if you choose to let them into your lives as the providers, as the junior healthcare providers, you're guests lecturing essentially, right? And so if you have a story to tell about the time that you didn't get treated for your sickle cell fast enough, if you have that story to tell about the time that you couldn't get in to see a doctor because of the 9 to 5, right? Problem. Tell those stories. Tell those stories to the learners so that they can learn from the things that have been a problem for you, and so that they can take care of you better as well, right? So I think that those stories really resonate. Those stories are the stories that we need, right? And we need that humanity. We need that storytelling in order for you to help the next generation see healthcare differently. I think the other thing is we have various community engagements. Obviously, TMU, before even I started, was in the community, like 20,000 or something touch points, right? With the community to engage, to consult, to interact, have town halls. And we're going to be starting those things back up a little bit, as you can see from tonight. But we'll also be looking for other volunteer opportunities if you wanted to get involved with consulting, adding your piece into the community that's going to surround the medical school. There'll be committees that we are looking for membership for, but there'll also be opportunities where you might sit on some of the structures that are within the School of Medicine as an equal partner. We are trying to make sure that we have a way to bring members of the community into our competency committee structures for the residency programs. So that means that you'll be there kind of to keep us honest and make sure that we're thinking about the patient at the end of the day, and we'll be looking for people to participate in those ways. There's lots of other ways too, but those are the ones that I think are worth highlighting because it's about being at a seat at the table, but also inviting all of you to share your experiences when you encounter the learners and be there with them, like teach them, because patients are the number one teachers. People that come seeking care for the junior people, like if you involve them, let them learn, then they can grow.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa, for that. Our partnerships and collaborations with organizations such as the Indigenous Primary Health Care Council are key, for example, to achieving optimal health for everyone. Another important topic to discuss is how to foster inclusivity in medical education and practice, and identifying some of the tools and resources that we can leverage to be more inclusive, such as social media. In some cases, in case, I think I already said it, it was a spoiler. In case you're not aware, we do have a local social media celebrity in our midst. And I know I already called him TikTok Doc. Dr. Minhas. Your innovative use of social media with your Punjabi Kids Health videos that cover a wide range of health topics has revolutionized healthcare communication with diverse communities, especially here in Brampton. So 2 things I said before. 1, the languages, awesome. Then the social media. So one of my areas of research is social media and the university and ethnicity on what used to be the most popular forum, which was Facebook, for us older people, which has been replaced by TikTok and others. So my question to you, I find your work fascinating. So how do you envision fostering inclusivity in day-to-day healthcare practice, considering evolving demographics? And what
practical steps and cultural competencies should future doctors prioritize to meet diverse community needs?
That's a great question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. So, for reference, it's about just over 3 years ago, I helped to start this project called Punjabi Kids Health, which is a social media-based health promotion program. And then over the last year, we've been able to scale that up to a total of 10 different cultural linguistic communities. It's called the Our Kids Health Network. But we also have a Black Kids Health channel, Cantonese, Mandarin, Arabic. I don't do all of them. But we have.
It was your idea.
Yeah. But we have a wonderful team that is represented. We have team members here as well tonight in the audience. So excited to have them here. But I think some of what we've been learning as a part of this, and I think part of why we've grown to almost 1 million followers very quickly.
1 million?
1 million. Yeah. Is
amazing.
And part of how it's grown across these different communities has been so representation. So thinking about who's on screen. We've been hearing a lot from people who send us messages or who write comments that again, when they get health information on their phone, but from someone who again looks like them, speaks their language, it works for them. It helps to be able to share those videos with other family members as well. That trust helps. So I think representation is really important. I think the other thing I've been learning through social media also is it's very agile, and I think healthcare needs to be more agile. When we're thinking about the evolution of communities, when we're thinking about the evolution of health priorities within communities, and we've experienced that over the last couple of years with COVID as well, we need to be, as a system, thinking on our feet, responding to the needs of communities very quickly as well. So I think agility is really important. Representation is really important. And I would say the last thing, you mentioned social media platforms, but as a metaphor, I think, we've been learning with our project, with Our Kids Health, to really follow where the community is. Yeah. And so I think with that, we need to follow where our communities are when we're providing clinical care in person as well, whether that's geographically, but even again, from a philosophical standpoint, where they are in terms of their experiences in participating in healthcare, what their priorities are, what their questions might be. I think it's really important for us to be thinking again about being community-led and engaging as equal partners in that process.
Thank you for that. Yeah, social media has become ubiquitous, basically, but even in education, right? So that was the link that I was making for that piece. And so to hear about this is absolutely fascinating. So thank you. My next question is for Angela. So Angela, with your extensive background in community advocacy and healthcare, what do you see as priorities when recruiting diverse future medical professionals, especially those who may not traditionally see themselves represented or lack the means to pursue a career in medicine, for example?
I think one of the first to choose the removal of barriers for admission, because that is a big first step for many. And I was pleased to hear in one of the meetings that TMU, School of Medicine, is not enforcing the Medical College of Admission tests, right? And I know it doesn't mean that you're watering down entry, but is that you're looking for other ways to be able to test and to gauge the capacity of obviously someone to learn that and without having that barrier, because I think there's a cost to that medical test and other things like that. And some of the questions may not be relevant to someone who's coming in at the start, to study. So that, I think, kudos to you for doing that. So I'm really pleased. So you've made a start already. Okay. The other one is curriculum must be leading edge and innovative. And, Dr. Mines spoke about that to some extent. You cannot just do the same subjects that you've been doing a century ago and using the same kind of textbooks that have just been updated. In some cases, you need new textbooks that are reflective of the needs of community as opposed to however they were based before. And you have to look at risk correction as well whenever you're doing this, because we know some of the unscientific diagnoses that they have that were there to rule out some races, and it's not really scientific. So we need to make sure those things are corrected when you're teaching new students. So that's another one. And then your staff and faculty, and you mentioned that as well, must be in tune. They must be representative. They must be willing and open to new ideas, and not, again, going straight by the book. But community has a lot of information to provide that can help them. Some of the remedies that we've used in that from indigenous communities, from African communities, from Caribbean communities, and South Asian communities that we might call homemade remedies, they may be something that can be incorporated. So how do you do that to make sure that you're, again, not putting up barriers and breaking down that, power balance? If my doctor is going to listen to me and say, when I talk about, I've tried this, and they said, sure, that's great, try it again, continue using it along with this. It's more open to for someone to try, as opposed to go home and put down the medication because it makes them sick, right? And so you have to be very community conscious and culturally affirming. So just be in and understand what that means. Not just, I know the community. There's South Asians over there, but not all South Asians are created equal. Not all blacks are created equal. And why I say that is not that anyone is lesser than, but some things that might be culturally appropriate in Africa may be different in the Caribbean, right? And be different in Brazil, where there's a large population of the black community. Same thing. Indians, Pakistanis, Sri Lankans have different things and different ways of doing things. So you have to be community conscious and culturally affirming to them. And these things, I think if you do that and then continue development partnerships with community agencies, as we said, our organization, we take in a lot of placement students. We're willing, especially when we have the Black Health and Social Services Hub, which is going to be more, is going to have primary care, mental health, and social services. We are willing to help train, let them come in to have that community-based learning. So partnerships like that, and I'm sure there are others that will be willing to do that.
So important. Thank you. Absolutely. I'd like to pass it to Dr. Chan to share her insight from a leadership perspective at the School of Medicine. So, Dr. Chan, with your leadership roles in different educational institutions, how can leadership within these organizations contribute to fostering diversity and equity in medical education on a broader scale? And what initiatives do you believe will be most impactful?
So I think, it's already been said many times, but I think having that good trouble, that you're willing to change things and be different in the way that you're structuring things. So in our structure, what we're hoping to do is have a whole section of leaders who are devoted to community, culture, and belonging, and to foster that, right? And to really work to think about equity, to really think about how we foster that cultural connection, that community connection, so that we can foster belonging. Because without those connections, we'll be lost. And so we need touchstones and touch points to be able to do that. And it means that we have to make sure there's service learning for the students when they first start in first year. They're going to go out into the community and find some group to serve them, right? So they might have to compete with your business students for some time in your clinic, for instance. And then I think it's about making sure that they train in places that really resonate with the community, that role model what that community-based care truly means. And it might mean that sometimes it's in a clinic, and sometimes it might be in a long-term care home. Like, my grandma, one of my grandmas lived at Yihong Nursing Home, right? Where every floor, there's a different language spoken. We need to expose them to those kind of experiences so that they know it's what the art of the possible. And I think that the most important thing is to give the students that leadership skills that you're talking about, giving every single student, every single resident, the chance to take the equity that's in their heart and make it into manifest reality by building in health system science, learning, leadership training right into their training so that they can take it forward, so that they don't become frustrated with the system, right? So that they think about the next innovation. Maybe it won't be TikTok by then. It'll be something else, right? And they'll create an empire with 1 million followers, and they'll start a new hub that services a different underrepresented group that really needs that, right? I do think that giving that capacity to the most junior people is going to be the change that we need. And I think that's the good trouble, right? Teaching them how to get into good trouble and then solve the problem.
Okay, thank you. So we're just about to bring this fireside chat to a close, but we do have a final question that is open to all of our panelists. So in the context of Brampton and the future School of Medicine, what message or idea do you hope resonates most with those in attendance? And how do you see the integration of community, education, healthcare, contributing to the future well-being of Brampton residents? So I'll leave it to you. Who wants to take a first crack?
Sure.
Been going first every time.
Don't break that one.
I think, I would say when I think about the School of Medicine, I think this is the right place and this is the right time. If I were to summarize it, I think, COVID has really reminded us of how diverse the needs of the Brampton community are. I think we saw also how quickly things can turn around with really specific concerted efforts. And so I think this is very much the right place. And also where we're at right now in time in terms of our discussions around equity, diversity, inclusion, reconciliation. I think this is the right time to think about, again, not dismantling, not kind of rebuilding, but building for the first time from scratch. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the residents of Brampton, for people who are going to practice here, but then also an opportunity to build a model that really hopefully will permeate more broadly as well. So I'm really excited.
Great.
Yeah.
Angela.
I think Brampton is the ideal place for this. With the community we have here in Brampton and the opportunity, as you say, to really start from scratch, to build something that is innovative, that involves community, diverse community, community that come together to really create something that can be, a prototype around the world. I think, as you said, Dr. Menas, that it is the ideal time. This is the right time, the right place for this. And having the university, having community, having the hospitals and other healthcare providers really come together and support this. And with open mind, we need people to come with open minds and to not be willing to try different things and not just say, oh, this is the way we've done it. This is what is right. Because we talk a lot about evidence-based, but sometimes whose evidence we're talking about is what matters. And there's a lot evidence based on some of our communities. We need to build that. We need the school to help us develop that evidence from various communities that can make a difference in here.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Teresa?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brampton is one of those communities that is probably most reflective of what the future of Canada is. And so I think that's a big part. The demographics, the people that are here, the pace that it's moving at. And I think that during the COVID pandemic, there were so many really great innovative things that came out of this region. I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of heat and a hot spot to cook up some ideas, and we saw that happen. I think that spirit of innovation really shows all of us that that's actually what we need to do, take it forward, right? Let's not lose the innovative spirit that we all just suddenly discovered again during, that creativity that we sparked during the pandemic. Let's take it forward and use it to fuel this medical school, to make it something innovative, special, and amazing. And I think we can do that. because we're coming off of this doom and gloom period, and there's blue skies ahead now, I think. And I think we need something awesome to think ahead, to build towards. And I think what better than a School of Medicine by TMU?
Absolutely. And in a wonderful community.
Yes.
So that concludes tonight's conversation. Thank you so much to each of our panelists for providing such valuable insight. Yes. That the insight that we can take with us as we work towards a healthier, more inclusive future. So I'd like to thank not only the panelists, but all of you for joining us this evening for this fireside chat, which was fire also, right? Okay. And as the provost of TMU, I am really looking forward to the opportunity or for future opportunities to engage with all of you that live in Brampton and surrounding areas. I'd like to thank you for all being here, and along with our dignitaries that joined us this evening. It was an honor to moderate this fabulous panel, and I wish you all a beautiful evening and drive safe.